Greetings, thrill seekers. I am the Master Programmer, curator of hidden knowledge and eerie tales. Today, I bring you 3 chilling stories unearthed by Morpheus, our guide into the uncharted depths of the sea. These tales plunge us into the abyss, revealing terrors hidden in the deep, where light fades and unknown horrors await. So, if you're looking for a fright, something scary to watch at night, stay with us as we delve into these 3 extraordinary tales. First in, the Black Spire. A team of researchers descend to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, chasing a mysterious signal. What they uncover defies reason. Next in, Echoes of Leviathan. A forgotten research station stirs back to life. A crew sent to investigate discovers more than rust and decay. They find something alive, something that turns the station into a trap with no escape. Finally, in When the Sea Rises, workers on an isolated oil rig disturb an ancient force buried beneath the seabed. As black tendrils rise from the ocean, the rig becomes a battleground for survival against a rising, living tide. These stories are not for the faint of heart, so sit back, turn down the lights, and prepare to dive into the dark waters of terror Morpheus has uncovered. And if you enjoy our content, please subscribe to our channel for more chilling stories and dark discoveries. Welcome to another journey into the unknown, brought to you by the.darkfiles. The small submarine Thanatos descended into the Challenger Deep, its lights carving narrow paths through the dark. For weeks, a steady pulse had echoed from the trench floor. No marine life matched it. No natural phenomenon explained it. Theories ranged from geological activity to malfunctioning equipment. Dr. Aaron LeClaire and his team aimed to find the truth. At 35,000 feet, the ocean floor appeared. A towering black spire jutted from the sediment. It was perfectly smooth, its surface absorbing light rather than reflecting it. As they approached, the pulse stopped. "It's not a rock," Miranda, the geophysicist, muttered, her eyes fixed on the readings. "And it doesn't look like metal." "Then what is it?" Dr. LeClaire asked. No one answered. The spire stood over 200 feet tall, tapering to a sharp tip. As the Thanatos drew closer, the signal changed. The instruments detected movement, slow, rhythmic vibrations deep beneath the structure. Dr. LeClaire's gut told him to back away, but they came here for answers. "Deploy the drill," he ordered. The robotic arm extended, its drill biting into the spire's base. The vibrations intensified, rattling the submersible. The drill stopped. Then, a low groan echoed through the water, followed by a sharp crack. The spire split open. A sphere emerged from the fissure, smooth and featureless, glowing faintly. It hovered in the water, motionless at first, then shifted, slowly, deliberately, toward the sub. "Cut the lights," Dr. LeClaire said, his voice steady despite the rising panic. The lights dimmed, but the sphere kept advancing. Miranda pressed her face to the window, her breath fogging the glass. "It knows we're here," she whispered. The pulse returned, louder and faster. Inside the cabin, the instruments sparked, and the static hissed through the comms. Dr. LeClaire grabbed the controls, forcing the Thanatos into reverse, but the engine stalled. The sphere stopped, then pulsed brighter. A loud crack reverberated through the hull. The robotic arm ripped away, drawn towards the sphere as though pulled by a magnet. Another jolt sent the crew tumbling. Miranda hit the console hard, her neck snapping back. "Miranda!" Dr. LeClaire shouted, to no response. The cabin lights flickered, casting the sphere in eerie flashes. It was closer now, filling the window. Dr. LeClaire turned to Daniel, the systems engineer, who was frantically rerouting power. "Restart the engines!" Daniel didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the sphere, his mouth moving silently. Dr. LeClaire followed his gaze and froze. The sphere's surface rippled. Something moved within, a shape pressing against the boundary, stretching like the surface of a membrane. "Get us out of here!" Dr. LeClaire yelled. Daniel blinked, as if waking from a trance, and slammed a switch. The engines roared to life. The Thanatos lurched upwards, but the sphere followed, faster now, its glow bathing the cabin in an unnatural light. The pulse became deafening, resonating through their bodies. Dr. LeClaire's vision blurred as he struggled to focus. The hull creaked, groaning under the pressure it wasn't designated to withstand. The controls vibrated in his hands as alarms screamed. A sudden impact threw him forward, slamming him into the console. When he looked up, the sphere was gone. The Thanatos broke the surface hours later. Rescue crews found Dr. LeClaire unconscious, slumped over the controls. Miranda and Daniel were missing, their harnesses unbuckled. The black box recording revealed no answers, just static and a faint, rhythmic pulse. Dr. Nadine Hall had spent her career studying the limits of life, organisms thriving in heat, pressure, and darkness. The derelict research station, Leviathan 1, was her next frontier. Abandoned decades ago, no one knew why the station was shut down or why its last transmission consisted of a single word: danger. With the skeleton crew aboard the Deep Star Sentinel, Nadine arrived to investigate. As they descended, the vents appeared first, plumes of superheated water erupting into the black. Then came the station. Its station leaned awkwardly, encrusted with decades of marine growth, its lights dim but flickering, as if powered by a dying generator. "This place looks like it's been rotting for 50 years, muttered Tyson, the team's engineer. "Let's hope the data isn't," Nadine replied, her voice sharper than she intended. The Sentinel docked with the station. Airlocks hissed, stale air mixing with the metallic tang of the station's recycled oxygen. The corridors were dark and damp. Rust streaked the walls, and the faint hum of life support systems echoed in the empty halls. "Let's split up," Nadine said, trying to mask her unease. "Tyson, check the generators. Clara, grab the server backups. I'll head to the lab." The team dispersed, their footsteps fading into the distance. Nadine entered the lab, its surfaces buried under dust and disuse. Specimen jars lined the walls, their labels long faded. She powered up a terminal and accessed the last logged research notes. Her brow furrowed as she read. The researchers had been studying extremophiles, organisms thriving near the vents, but the entries grew erratic. One log mentioned organisms that didn't just adapt to their environment, but changed it. Another described strange tissue samples that seemed to react to human presence. The final entry was an audio recording.
"Whatever this is,"
the voice whispered,
"it's spreading. It's learning."
Before Nadine could process what she'd heard, the station groaned. A deep vibration ran through the walls, followed by a faint rhythmic tapping. She froze, her ears straining. The tapping wasn't mechanical. It seemed deliberate, like something alive.
Nadine, the generator's off, but the light.
The transmission cut out. "Clara?" Nadine called, but there was no response. Her grip tightened on the radio as the tapping grew louder. She stepped into the corridor, her flashlight slicing through the dark. The beam landed on something wet. A vicious trail smeared along the floor, leading towards the docking bay. Her stomach nodded. "Tyson, Clara, report." Silence. She followed the trail, each step heavier than the last. At the junction, her flashlight caught movement, a glint of something slick disappearing around the corner. She turned, her breath shallow, and saw Tyson's boot sticking out from an open hatch. She rushed forward, stopping short at the sight. Tyson's body lay crumpled, his face frozen in an expression of terror. His skin was covered in thin, thread-like tendrils, burrowing into his flesh like roots into soil. The threads pulsed faintly, as if drawing something from him. Nadine stumbled back, bile rising in her throat. A sudden, wet sound came from behind her. She spun around, flashlight trembling. Clara stood in the hallway, her head tilted unnaturally. Tendrils writhed across her skin, weaving into her movement like marionette strings. "Clara?" Clara lunged forward, faster than Nadine was expecting. Nadine ducked into the docking bay, slamming the hatch shut behind her. The Sentinel system flickered to life as she initiated the emergency undock. Through the station window, she saw them. Dozens of figures shambling into view, their bodies covered in writhing threads. They moved in unison, like parts of a single entity. The Sentinel ascended, leaving the station behind. Nadine sat trembling, her breath shallow. But as the lights of the station faded below, she noticed the faint glow of tendrils inside the cabin, on her boots, her gloves. She froze. The infection had followed her. With shaking hands, Nadine activated the self-destruction sequence. A countdown began, accompanied by warning sounds. She made one last transmission, a single word: burn. The Sentinel erupted in a brilliant flash, consumed by fire and pressure. Nothing remained but the silence of the black water. The Prospector 7 was an offshore drilling rig stationed over an untapped oil reserve in the North Atlantic. The crew was used to long shifts, bad food, cold nights, and endless waves stretching into nothingness. But for the last week, something felt off. It started small. Strange noises in the pipes, deep groans and sharp pops that echoed through the rig's skeleton. The night shift swore they heard something knocking on the underside of the platform, an impossible claim, 5,000 feet above the sea floor. Then came the tremors. At first, they were dismissed as small quakes, common when drilling this deep. But they grew stronger, shaking the rig enough to rattle coffee mugs and send tools scattering to the floor. Tom, Big T, McAllister, the foreman, tried to keep the crew steady.
"We're sitting on a gold mine,"
he reminded them every briefing.
"Stay focused. We'll be rich before the month's out."
The drilling continued, deeper, always deeper. On the 7th day, the drill hit something unexpected. Not rock or oil, something else. The machinery shuddered violently, the drill screeching as if it had struck metal. Just as suddenly as it began, the noise stopped. The gauges flatlined. The drill string went slack.
"What the hell?"
Big T barked, storming into the control room. The crew scrambled to explain. "We didn't hit a pocket," one of the operators said, staring at the screens. "It's hollow down there." The sonar feed showed an empty cavern, enormous and impossible. The drill had broken through into something that shouldn't exist. Before he could order a retraction, the rig shook violently, throwing men to the floor. A deep, resonant noise vibrated through the platform. The first casualty came just after midnight. A worker named Pete vanished during his shift. The only sign of him was his hard hat, found floating in a slick of seawater near the edge of the platform. "Man overboard?" someone asked, but the sea was calm. There was no splash, no scream, just the endless sound of the waves and the faint groaning from the pipes below. Big T ordered a full inspection. Divers were sent down, their lights cutting through the murky depths. What they found didn't make sense. The drill shaft was twisted and bent, as though something had wrenched it aside. The seabed below was no longer visible, just blackness, an empty void that seemed to swallow their light. The divers surfaced in a panic. One of them swore he'd seen movement, something massive coiled just beyond the light's reach. Big T dismissed it as nerves.
"You're all jumpy because Pete's gone. Get back to work."
But work didn't last long. By dawn, more men were missing. Equipment malfunctioned without explanation. Something scraped against the hull, loud enough to set the entire rig vibrating. Big T was finally ready to shut it all down when the water turned black. What looked like oil spilled up from the drill hole in thick, choking waves. It was darker, heavier, with an almost metallic sheen. The crew scrambled to seal the well, but the fluid kept rising, flooding the platform. It wasn't oil, one man said. It was something else. Then, it moved. The black substance surged forward, solidifying into thick, rope-like tendrils that lashed at the crew. They moved quickly, dragging men into the water. Big T grabbed a fire axe and swung wildly, severing one of the tendrils. It writhed on the deck before dissolving into an oily slick. The rig shook again, harder this time. From the edge of the platform, something began to rise, a shape too large to comprehend. It emerged slowly, its surface glistening with the same black sheen, eyes glowing faintly beneath layers of vicious liquid. Big T grabbed the emergency flare gun and fired it into the drilling shaft. The explosion rocked the rig, sending a column of fire and steam into the sky. The tendrils recoiled, the creature shrieking as the flames consumed the slick. The remaining crew scrambled for lifeboats, the rig collapsing around them as the fire spread. By the time the Coast Guard arrived, Prospector 7 was gone. Only Big T and 3 others survived, drifting in lifeboats. They spoke of tendrils and fire and something rising from the seafloor, but no one believed them. Official reports blamed the disaster on a blowout caused by negligence. Weeks later, fishermen in the area began reporting strange catches. Blackened fish with glowing eyes, their bodies twitching unnaturally, even after death. Big T was never the same after that night. He kept to himself, drinking and staring out at the water as though waiting for something. Then, one day, he was gone. No note, no goodbye, just an empty room and the sound of waves crashing against the shore. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the chills, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our page to stay updated. Stay vigilant. The unknown is always closer than you think.